Hello, hello, hello. My name is Jack Taylor, and you're here for Imagine Easter Part 5. You know, when the lawgiver Moses finally disqualifies himself from taking the people into the promised land, then his successor steps into the gap with trembling. And the name Joshua, which is the Hebrew equivalent for Yeshua or Jesus, the name Joshua means God is salvation. God calls him to be strong and very courageous over and over. And as the right-hand man of Moses, Joshua understands the heart of God and the heart of his countrymen. He is the faithful spy who has brought back the good report from the heart of enemy territory. He's unafraid to stand for truth in the midst of opposition. And so he leads God's people against Jericho. Rahab's scarlet cord is dangled as a reminder of how God can save the least in the midst of chaos and destruction. And her simple declaration, based on the previous acts of God, that the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below, that's enough. It's enough to secure her salvation. Well, the Jordan is going to divide at flood tide like a door to admit the invaders, and the walls of Jericho are going to collapse like dominoes, but in between there is the renewal of a covenant, circumcision, the lifting of reproach. They eat the produce of the land and the manna ceases. For 40 years the manna has nourished them. It is Passover. Now the milk and honey lie before. And near Jericho, the commander of the armies of the Lord meets Joshua with his sword drawn. And he says, Joshua asks, "Are you for us or for our enemies?" "Neither," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come. The place where you are standing is holy." Well, here's the heart of Easter. God is for himself in working his salvation. We stand on holy ground as we approach the mighty work which he alone can do. Ours is to worship and to follow all that he calls us to do. Well, the Passover, which started 40 years before, is celebrated for the first time in the promised place since leaving Egypt. Now, Passover is the time of renewing covenant, entering the promise. Passover is the time of Easter yet to come. A time of remembering, renewing, recommitting, and entering into the promised life. So the citadel is conquered, yet there is sin in the camp. Further victory is withheld until sin is blotted out. And a time of introspection, reflection, cleansing, repentance marks this moment. And so begins the slow adventure toward conquering the giants, the fortresses, the hills, and the valleys. A battle impossible to fight in our own strength. A battle where sometimes we soar in triumph and sometimes we sigh in defeat. Yet the promise stands. Easter calls us forward to the triumph of one that is greater than ourselves, a final Joshua. Join me tomorrow for one more step toward Easter.